just thank you for coming here. I don't watch this thing. I can't watch it. I sweat, I cry. I came in just the last few minutes and I was dying just watching it again. So thank you. I'm just grateful that anyone wants to watch this because you know where you're coming. You know you're coming to watch a movie about the most horrific thing that's going on in the world right now. So I'm grateful for the filmmakers, for Angel Studios, who's willing to take a chance on a movie that again it's touching the worst thing on the planet. And we always feared from the beginning that no one would come to this. In fact, there was a lot of efforts made to make sure this movie never saw a screen. It's passed through many hands. It was with Fox, it was with Disney. This movie's, it was in production for quite some time. It was always wrong. I always knew it was wrong until we finally connected with Angel Studios. I knew that that's the only home it was always meant to be with. And so we're so grateful. We can, because we're limited what we can do, what I can do, what my teams can do. Since this first operation, we've grown and we have about 130 full-time folks, about 80 contractors, and we're doing these kind of operations every month, every week. We have offices in Southeast Asia. We have a region in Africa and the Middle East. We have Mexico, Caribbean, Europe, Central America, South America, and the United States. So, and those teams are just constantly moving, constantly doing rescue operations. I'm a little bit extra emotional because I just found out 3 minutes ago as we're watching, one of our operators in Haiti had been kidnapped. He's been kidnapped for a month by thugs who were trying to stop him and our work, and he got released about 5 minutes ago. So that was so good to hear. We've been so sick, and he's got a wife and several small children, so thank God for that. But so how do we stop this? With this team that we have, we've been blessed to be able to rescue to date over 7,000 children and women since this story happened, and that was about 10 years ago, and 5,000 arrests, and that's great and that's awesome, and we would do it all just for one. I mean, that's what I love about this story is we would go the distance, whatever it took, just for the one. But this is a problem that has captured millions of children, and we can't do that. We can't extract millions. But there is a solution to get the millions, and it's a solution that has been left to us as a history lesson because it's been done before. Millions have been liberated before from slavery. So how? Let's take, for example, slavery's been around forever, but let's take the most maybe recent historical example. That's the transatlantic slave trade. How did it finally end? How did it last for 350 years? But more importantly, how did it end? Your mind might go to Abraham Lincoln, your mind might go to other politicians or whatever, but that's not even true. Like, I love Abraham Lincoln. He did the right thing when he had the chance, but that wasn't it. Even he admitted it wasn't it. In the middle of the Civil War, he met a woman named Harriet Beecher Stowe. Do you know who Harriet Beecher Stowe was? She was one of the more prominent storytellers. She wrote a book about slavery, trying to shine a light on it. And she joined her voices with the most powerful voices of the 19th century: Frederick Douglass, Harriet Tubman, Sojourner Truth. Above my mantle in my office, I have a big portrait of Harriet Tubman because she's my hero. Because she, having been a slave herself and having scored her freedom, she could have done anything with it. She could have gone and lived a life on the Speaker's Bureau or whatever, but she didn't. And they knew that she was the threat to slavery, and she kept going back into the evil, back into the devil's lair, back into the South, and continued to just rescue people. Wow, who is this woman? Everyone needs to dig deeper into that story. But even she would admit that, she can rescue the one in the tens and the hundreds and the thousands. But when Abraham Lincoln met this storyteller during the Civil War, he reached down and grabbed her little hand and said, "So you're the little lady who wrote the big book that started this war." And what he was referencing was the fact that he wasn't even, when he became the president in 1861, he took his inaugural address and promised that he would not touch slavery where it existed. Ouch. That's how he started. 2 years later, he changed. He said, "I was wrong. God has told me I was wrong. This war is about something else. It's about liberating the captive." But who brought him to his knees? I promise you, he said it. It was those storytellers. They got too loud. Those voices got so loud that those voices shook the foundation of the White House. And he fell to his knees and he turned to God, because they told him to, by the way. Those abolitionist voices told him to. And then he saw, and then he changed. And then the Constitution was amended, and millions were finally liberated. William Wilberforce in England, same story. Trying to fight it, trying to end it. He realized he couldn't end it. And so he did the same thing. He turned to the people, he turned to storytellers. He was a trust fund baby, had millions of dollars, whatever, pounds, whatever. So he would bring people in to his cruise boat, invite them to a dinner, influential people. And they thought they were in for just a nice evening of luxury, whatever. And he would run that boat into an anchored slave ship and say, "This is why I brought you here, you fools. Wake up, smell it, look at it. You're allowing this to happen." And he jolted people, and they made a change. The slave trade was ended in 1825, even way before the Civil War. So what I'm getting at here is these stories can repeat over and over, and that's wonderful, and I hope they do. We'll make sure of that. But we are not the final solution to this. We can't be. We don't have the skills to do it. But Angel Studios does, as long as you participate with them and us. Angel Studios figured out a way to get 120 million people to watch The Chosen. Who watches The Chosen? It's the only show I watch. How many movies or TV shows about Jesus have been made that no one watched? What's going on? The Chosen is something special. That's why we're grateful to be with them. They know how to do this. They know how to rally people. But the good news is, they watch this film and they say, "I wish I could go undercover." We don't need that. There's plenty of people who will do that. We need you to do what we can't do. And that is participate in this. So participate in the launch and in the distribution and the sharing of this message and this movie in particular. And that's why Angel Studios came up with an amazing program that allows for you to participate, not just buying a ticket for yourself to watch this, but you can go to this QR code right now and buy tickets for 10 people, 20 people, 100 people. Because millions would watch this. One deterrent is they don't have the money to go see it. But if you bought their ticket for them, and that's the program, the Pay It Forward program that Angel Studios has. We have a goal, as you've heard already. On July 4th, we want 2 million people to watch this movie, and then at the end of it, stand up and say, we won't stand for this, we're going to stand up and we're going to end this. 2 million people representing the 2 million children who are currently forced into commercial sex. That's not all the people enslaved today, by the way. But those are the 2 million children in commercial sex. There's actually 6 million children in total in the world, if you add the other forms of slavery. So we want at least 2 million people there, and we know we can do it. If anyone can do it, it's Angel Studios, because they've done it before. But let's do it this time. And really, it's the same message as The Chosen. People watch this film like, how do you and your team have the guts to go? I can't watch this because I actually don't have the guts to do what you just saw. I don't. I freak out thinking, what was I thinking? I watched it with my wife. She's like, what were you thinking? What were we thinking? The only reason I can even begin to do it, I'm scared to death before, I'm scared to death after, but in the middle, when I'm in it, and my team is in it, I can't speak for them, but for myself, I'm not scared, I'm calm. Why? There's only one reason. There's only one reason. And there's a scripture that Jim Caviezel actually said in this film that was not script. He ad-libbed it. It was in the coffee shop, real scene. I wish I had said it, but I didn't in the real life. But the scene is very accurate, except I didn't say the coolest thing he said was when he looked into that pedophile's eyes. Ernst Lupos-Chensky is his real name. They changed his name just a little bit so they don't get sued, whatever it is. But his name's Ernst Lupos-Chensky, looks just like that. And Jim leans over the table and smiles and he says, "It's better that a millstone be hung around your neck and you be tossed to the bottom of the sea than that you would hurt one of these little ones." And that's mafioso language. That's what the mafia does. They put a rock around you and throw it in the ocean, in the sea, right? But this time it's Jesus saying it, so it's not unrighteous, it's super righteous. It's righteous indignation, it's truth, it's justice for children, because it prevents their death, their torture. And so I quote that scripture constantly in my mind because I think to myself, I know where Jesus stands on this issue. He's made it abundantly clear. He didn't say that you would be tossed into the sea if you hurt kids. He said it's better for you to be tossed into the sea and drowned to death than what is going to happen to you if you dare hurt one of these children. And that gives me faith, that gives me hope that we can go anywhere. And that is our promise. Our promise is we will go anywhere. And we have. We've been to the darkest corners of Syria, Iraq, the craziest corners of the worst nations of the planet. Where there was no hope, there is hope. Because there's nowhere that we won't go. Even if the government's corrupt and they don't want us, we will still go. And we'll figure out a way. I'll tell you a story. In 2010, there was a devastating earthquake in Haiti. If you remember this. And a lot of kids were hurt. I'm going to tell you a story about 3 of them. Two babies, a 1-year-old and 2-year-old, were crying over the dead body of their parents. And a nice woman in the midst of just blood, smoke, and terror took their hands and walked them into what she thought was an orphanage, because it said orphanage. What it was traffickers taking advantage of vulnerability, and they wrote orphanage on the wall. And these 2 beautiful little children were brought in, and later they were sold. They were being sold to traffickers for sex, for labor, for organ harvesting. Another little girl named Rosie was about 6 years old, same situation, crying over the dead body of her family, her parents, and another nice woman, apparently a nice woman, picked her up. This was not a nice woman, though. This was an evil woman with evil designs. Her name was Cho. She took this child and forced her into sex slavery for the next 8 years. I'm going to tell you her story first. We got a lead on this Cho and her trafficking organization. There's a documentary about this whole story, by the way. You can watch it. It's called Operation Two Saint. Anyone happen to see it before? It's on Amazon Prime. Operation Two Saint. Go watch this. It shows this whole thing. But we ended up through a series of crazy events, undercover operations. We ended up taking this trafficker and her organization down, and it led us to this little red door. This little red door on a small alley street in Port-au-Prince, Haiti, which is one of the most impoverished and corrupt and just horrific nations in the world. And we got through the red door, we opened it up, and it was the brothel, and we walked in, and we found this girl. We found little Rosie, but she was being raped. It's the only time that I've been part of something where we walk into a place, raid a place, and the act is happening. Only time I've ever witnessed it. And we had cameras. One of the Haitian cops had a camera on his helmet we put on, so we captured the evidence. And we got her out, and there's 2 other girls. Ended up they had multiple children. They had little infants that had been born from being abused as they were. And they used the little babies as leverage. You want to see your baby? You better keep working. You can see the baby once a week if you keep allowing us to abuse you this way. We rescued all the babies too. It was January 11th, 2018 when this happened. And it was the 10th that she was rescued. It was the 11th that she started speaking for the first time. Our aftercare team was there, and she was safe. And her first words were, "Can I really have hope?" What she meant was, is this real? Because I should not be free. She knew something. She knew that she was being enslaved and in bondage in one of the most obscure countries in the world, and further, she was being abused and kept in bondage in the darkest corner of that most forgotten country, behind a little red door. Who was going to open that door? Nobody was going to open that door. Who would open that door? And yet, here she was outside, and she still couldn't believe it 24 hours later. And she said, "Is this real?" And our aftercare team assured her, "It is real." And if you watch the documentary, you'll see her face is blurred, of course, but she's holding a little teddy bear, and she starts to kiss the teddy bear because she can't believe it. And then she says this, she says, "Do you know what today is?" I said, "Yeah, it's January 11th. She's like, "Do you know when the earthquake was?" The earthquake was January 10th, 2010, 8 years ago yesterday. I was kidnapped. I was taken by Cho on January 11th. 8 years ago to this day, she said. And then she said, "God did this. And he's speaking to me through these dates." That was the second thing she said after she said, "Can I have hope?" The other story, the other two little kids, was an operation that preceded that. It was February 14th, 2014. And we raided that orphanage. We got the intel, we got in there. In order to do it, the Haitian government asked us to go undercover and pretend to be traffickers and buy whatever they were selling to catch them in a sting. And we did, and the traffickers tried to sell us whatever kid we wanted for $15,000. And that's how pedophiles come and get these kids. That's how you saw the $150 billion a year business. What? Human trafficking. Well, how do you get that many kids into that market? That's how. Because that is happening thousands of times every day. But for this particular false orphanage, 28 children were liberated. And I bought one child. It was the sweetest story. And go watch the documentary because it's all in there. Also, you heard of PragerU? Mm-hmm. How many by raise of hand knows PragerU? Oh, excellent. So stay tuned because in about 3 weeks, we'll be announcing a new TV show, a new series called Light in the Darkness on PragerU. And I host the show. And we go through, and this story is told in a way that it blows my mind. But a little boy, I had to go pick a kid to buy. And I didn't think it mattered, and I was just looking around this horrible place, and right as I was considering which one I should pick at random, this beautiful little boy he's 2 years old, and it's the little boy who was with his sister before after the earthquake, and he turns around and he walks to me. And it got caught on camera. It got caught on the undercover camera that my partner had. And he walks and he just puts his hands up, and I pick this little boy up, and I think, oh my gosh, I guess you're the one. So I pick him, and a few moments later, I figure out that he has a sister because she's tracking me, and she's freaking out because how many Westerners have come to this place and picked up a child? And that child disappears forever. I recognize it, and so I grab her in a private place, and I tell her, who I am, which you're not supposed to do in an undercover operation, but I told her, and I got the message to her. Her name is Colleen. The little boy's name is Colleen. And so I said, "I promise you're gonna stay together. I'll never separate you." And so she gets it, smart kid, and she gets it, and we're working together now. This little 2.5-year-old and her 1.5-year-old brother, and we buy them in a sting operation, which was what we needed for the evidence, and then the Haitian authorities, along with our team, went and extracted all the other kids. And it was beautiful. And I called my wife that night, and I said, "You won't believe this. This was the first operation we actually did." The Sound of Freedom actually is just one half of the story. But they don't tell you because they don't have time, is that we were bouncing back and forth. There was 2 cases that the U.S. government told me I couldn't work. This one and this other one in Haiti, I'm telling you about. And so it bounces back and forth. They're in pre-production right now of Sound of Freedom 2. They've already written the script to tell this other piece of the story. I called my wife that night. I said, "You won't believe this. I told the story of these kids." And she said, "Well, where are their parents?" And I said, "Their parents died in the earthquake. But we got them out. I'm just stuck on this." And she's like, "No. What's going to happen to them now?" And I said, "Well, we're working on that. There's orphanages." And she's like, "No." And she wouldn't hang up the phone with me. She said, "Stop." She's like, "You telling me their mom is dead?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, then I need you to do something for me. I said, "Okay." Now, we had just started this thing, okay? I'm already freaking out. This is our first operation. I just quit my job. They didn't take the time to show how cowardice I was. They made me look brave, like, "Oh, this is easy. I'll just go do this thing." That's not what happened, okay? Let me back up a few months from February back to December 2013. Glenn Beck raised the money for us to be able to do these first operations, but if we failed, that was it. Like, I didn't know. There was an In-N-Out burger being built near my home. I was thinking maybe I could be the manager or something. Because I had to quit. And the government doesn't care. I'm a number, so I couldn't get back in very easily. And I didn't know what to do. So I was freaking out on the second week of December 2013, about a month and a half before the story I'm telling you happened in Haiti. But that was the operation that I had raised money for, and that's what we were going to go do. And even though we'd had lots of witnesses leading up to that this is what we were supposed to do, my faith wavered, extremely wavered, because I didn't know how I was going to feed my 6 children. By June, I was out of money. It's December. That's a scary feeling, especially when I saw the stats that said that 5% of nonprofits, only 5% make it through the first year, and 2.5% make it through the second year. And the federal government is the most secure job on the planet. So it's like, and I said, "Catherine, I don't think we should do this. This is crazy." And she got she's usually sweet, and they showed her sweet in the movie. But she grabbed my collars and she grabbed them tight. And she said these words, and I'm not paraphrasing, I'm giving you verbatim what she said because it pierced my soul. And she said, "I will not let you jeopardize my salvation by not doing this." And I said, "Wow." You can feel free to use that line, by the way, if you're having a marital dispute. It ends the argument pretty quick. But you gotta mean it. It's gotta be real. And it was real. And then I remember she also said, "And if we have to sell our house by June and live in a tent, so be it. We will meet our maker and it'll be a good meeting." And I said, that is actually a really true and good thought. And so here I am a few months later on the phone, and she's telling me this, as I'm telling her the story about little Colleen. She says, "If their mom is dead, then I need you to do whatever is necessary so that I can be their mom." And I almost fell out of my seat. It was like 2 a.m. I'm like, we already have no money left. This is not a cheap proposition. But I didn't want to get the jeopardize my salvation speech again, right? I already learned my lesson in December. I'm not going to go there again. And I felt the same spirit coming from her. And I said, okay, we'll do it. Colleen and Colleen have been home with us for the last 4 years. And if God didn't give me that experience, I might have quit already. But every day I'm home, I get to wake up and see these happy kids who are thriving in life. And Cole's the champion on his football team, and he's 11 years old and as quick as lightning. Colleen, she's learned how to do hair Haitian style, and like she does people's. It's just amazing, and they're just. And I when I think of them, I get very emotional because I know where they would be. I know what's going on in Haiti. And sometimes I look at them and I think, where would they be? Yeah. If they hadn't been rescued at this point, they would either be dead or being trafficked. I know this. And then how many other kids like Miguel, like Rocio, like Colleen. There's millions out there. And our teams are, like I said, are only capable of extracting a relative few. And we'll always do it. I'll do it till we die. Till I die, I'll do it. But it's a little torturous to think that that's only statistically a small drop in the bucket. Totally worth it, don't get me wrong, but still a small drop. How do I have that experience that Lincoln and Harry Beecher Stowe and Frederick Douglass and Harriet Tubman, that they had this experience, that they were part of something that ended the whole thing? Is that possible? I get nervous because I'm wearing this shirt for a reason. I've never dreamed I would see a day when in the midst of spiritual warfare, we find out that children are being targeted. I'm not talking about kids stuck in the jungles of Colombia or behind a red door in Haiti. I'm talking about our kids. The godless left woke agenda is the pedophile agenda. I can't believe it. You understand that everything they're doing to our kids is making pedophiles salivate. I'm not conspiracy theory. I'm not saying they're colluding directly. I think there's a dark source that's talking to both of them. But when you sexualize children and give them pornography and call it sex education, pedophiles are salivating. They've been asking us to do this for decades because they need the kids addicted to it. By the time they're 12 or 13, you're telling them that they're responsible enough to make a decision about destroying their genitalia? Are you kidding me? Anyone have teenagers? Are they responsible at 12 or 13 to make any decision? Even what they're gonna do tonight? And you're gonna let them block and destroy themselves? And so, well, they're responsible enough to consent. Guess what's gonna happen next? If they can consent to that, it's nothing to say they can consent to having sex with a 51-year-old pedophile. And the pedophiles are salivating. They know what's happening. They're watching this. And when mom, who's getting all the awards and getting social media, a million likes for cutting her daughter's genitalia off, right? And then when 13-year-old says, Mom, I want to have sex with this 51-year-old because I identify as a 50-year-old. Oh, no, sweetie, sorry, that's not true. What do you mean it's not true? Look, age is more fluid than gender. I know this. I adopted 2 children. I knew the second I saw them that one was a boy and one was a girl. That was really easy. But what wasn't easy, I didn't know their ages. We still don't know their ages. They didn't have birth certificates. They were lost and trafficked children. So we had to guess. Age is more fluid. Why is that scary? Because when mom confronts 13-year-old and says, no, sweetie, you are 13. What do you mean? You told me that it was okay for me to be in the wrong body. You told me I can be a boy. Well, how can you now tell me that I can't be 50? Well, because, sweetie, you've lost your argument. Because you've tossed out science, you've tossed out God, you've tossed out everything that anchors us to truth and justice and fairness and righteousness. You've destroyed it. The godless woke have destroyed it. And they're giving us awards, and those of us who speak out against it are getting canceled. I had to proposition Wikipedia to just delete my Wikipedia page because these godless, woke, pedophile groups are just attacking me so badly and making up lies, and I can't control it. I mean, we get canceled for saying this, and I will not stop saying it. I don't care. And so the playing field of human trafficking isn't just what you saw. It's much bigger. And in fact, I'll even extend it into killing babies in the womb. That's where it starts. I mean, think about this. Since 1973, when we said it was okay to just crush the skulls of little babies, what do you expect? Those children who were raised with that sick ideology are now the parents who are cutting the genitals off their children. Because they were taught that it's just meat, it's just whatever, it's not godly, it's not spirit, it's not eternal. Of course there's no problem to stick them with puberty blockers and cut their genitals, right? This is where it starts. So the field of human trafficking is much bigger than the obvious children stuck here or stuck there. Every kid who's going to public school right now is in this playing field. Every child in the womb whose moms and dads potentially think that they are liberating them by crushing their skulls. They're liberating them. I'm sorry for being so raw. I don't know how else to be after I've seen all this stuff. They're saying that they're liberating them from having to live in a world of climate change. They say this. You're a hero. You're a hero for doing this. Enslaving children in the name of liberating them. Killing them in the name of liberating them. And then the worst one, the one that's we just saved this baby from having to grow up in the body of a Down syndrome body. These are the most precious souls on the planet, and you all know that. Which is why the adversary targets them. And so this fight is much bigger. And I pray to God that this film and that Angel Studios and the storytellers can be the catalyst that opens the world's eyes to all of it. That is the beginning of the end of this horrific agenda to destroy our children. And so in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, I pray that you and all of us get together and use this as a catalyst of light. And light is the great disinfectant, right? Only light can dispel the darkness. And we'll do it. Thank you so much. God bless all of you.